Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. This is a quick review of the two Bad Idea books that came out on November 2nd, 2022. We've got Escape from Wyoming, #1, and Orc Island, #1. These are Bad Idea 2, Part 1, the books that are all coming out toward the end of this year and a couple into next year. So Escape from Wyoming is a two-part series. It's written by Robert Venditti. The art is by Jorge Monlongo. And then Orc Island is a four-part series written by Joshua Dysart. The art in that one is by Alberto Ponticelli. And there are backups in both of them as well. So let me go ahead and show the books first. It's Bad Idea, so there aren't any digital copies, but you can see the copy here. So I try to hold it up and have it not disappear in my green screen. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got spot gloss on the cover. So it's a really beautiful looking book. And it sort of ties into a story that we saw before as a B-side with President Abraham Lincoln making a deal to basically have this maximum security prison for aliens on Earth. And that's where this book picks up. There's a cop who's been framed for a bunch of crimes. Didn't want to take bribes, didn't want to be corrupt, and they sent him up as a fall guy. And he ends up getting sentenced to Earth, to that supermax, and then there's a breakout, and he's kind of the only one on the scene who maybe can help the warden capture these aliens before disaster strikes. The escape protocol is basically to vaporize the Earth if the prisoners are able to escape. So there's high stakes. It's a lot of fun. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, different from anything that Robert Venditti's really done before. His comics that I've read tend to be a little more on the serious side, maybe with the exception of Hank Howard, Pizza Detective, which was also a previous Bad Idea book. So I'm really enjoying the start. I'm curious to see what happens in the second part. As I said, it is just a two-part story. And the art by Monlongo is really dynamic. It's a little stylized, but it definitely suits the style of the story. The backup I thought was really interesting. Very crime noir. You could see it being a movie, kind of like Fargo, Coen Brothers kind of thing. It's called Powder Day. It's written by Jody LeHeup. Justin Mason is the artist, and Troy Peteri does the letters. Peteri does the letters for the main story as well. And what's great about Powder, let's see if I can show it here. It's in black and white. My green screen is going crazy on this thing. There you go. It's in black and white. Great line work. As I said, really interesting, violent crime story. I really enjoyed it. So definitely a thumbs up for Escape from Wyoming. I had sort of forgotten it's been so long since we've had Bad Idea books. I forgot just how good, how high quality they are. I mean, we're talking about some of the best artists, some of the best storytellers in the business, and the production value is just fantastic. I mean, you don't get books that are of this quality. You just don't. Like the really thick stock cover, and as I said, that spot gloss, and the pages feel thicker than normal comic pages. So they definitely spare no expense when it comes to the production values of the book. So let's move on to Orc Island. This one has a Louis LaRosa cover. Again, there's a little bit of spot gloss. It's got that stylized Orc Island logo, which is really, really interesting. There's a backup in this one as well, which is basically a story of Noah's Ark, which I found sort of interesting. That backup is written by Mike Carey. The art is by Kano, letters by Troy Peteri. Yeah, I thought it was okay, but I also felt a little bit like, what was the point? It is satire. It is kind of a traditional retelling of the story of Noah's Ark, but didn't really have an ending, or didn't really speak to me. So I'm not really sure how I feel about that one. The main story I loved, though. I'm a big fan of Joshua Dysart. And I think Josh, he can't help himself when it comes to writing stories. It's always got to have a little bit of a message or a setting that's kind of meta, that talks about class, that talks about inequality, that talks about society being unfair. Just I don't know. I guess in Josh's world, even when it's a fantastical society of half elves and orcs and various other um, fantasy species, there's still inequality. There's still the haves and the have-nots. There's still those that kind of lift themselves up on the backs and the hard work of others. So it's not preachy, and it feels very different from anything he's done before. Even his previous Bad Idea book, Odin's Eye, which felt very spiritual and felt big and epic in scope and really grand is maybe the best word to describe Odin's Eye. This feels big in terms of the world. It feels rich and fully realized, but it doesn't have that real grand scope. It's a dirty world, honestly. This world where Orc Island exists, and they're uh, the two main characters in the story. They're trying to better themselves, not necessarily through the way that pull yourself up by your bootstraps and um, make a better life for yourself. It's more about, hey, we're going to do the best we can with what we have, and we're not out to hurt people necessarily, but we're certainly out to look out for ourselves, if you will. So the main character is a half elf, and when people call him a halfling, he really doesn't like that. So he's out there, he's stealing, he's trying to just survive, and he's recruited to fight in front of some of these rich nobles who have returned to the planet or the land, and he does his fighting, but he also runs his mouth quite a bit, and so he ends up befriending or being recruited by this privateer who's going to go to Orc Island and find orc skulls. Orc skulls are like this artifact, this very valuable thing that the kind of the upper class really prize. So she recruits this half elf Siren, and they're going to go on this adventure. They're going to retrieve as many orc skulls as they can and return to riches. If that sounds like a bad idea, being that the Orc Island is surrounded by an impenetrable mist that only a sorcerer can break through. They don't really have access to a sorcerer, but they buy one on the black market, a sorcerer that is set to be executed because sorcerers are exploited by the upper class to make the buildings they live in fly, and using the magic nonstop like that eventually drives the sorcerers mad. So this privateer, she finds a way to buy one of the sorcerers on the black market. Um, Ugria is her name. And so they have this sorcerer who's half mad, if not more so, and they're going to use him to break through the mists of Orc Island and get these skulls and bring them back and kind of be set for life, supposedly. Oh, by the way, did I mention that the crew of their ship are slaves that are called draves, which look like they're kind of grown in these clay pots, and they're on the verge of revolt at any time. You need to literally give them something to kill on a regular basis, otherwise they get kind of out of hand and will turn on their masters. So yeah, this isn't a world where things are easy or things are safe, but it is a world that's full of adventure. And that's really the forefront. That's really the entertaining part of it. And I love the art. It's very detailed. Reminded me a little bit of Jeff Darrow art or Steve Scroce art from Alberto Ponticelli. I hadn't seen his work before. I wasn't familiar with it. So I was really impressed. It definitely suited the world. And again, it's kind of a dirty world, a rundown world, crowded, poor, getting back to this idea of the haves and have-nots that Josh just can't help himself to put into the story. So I was really impressed. I don't know if I could pick a favorite between these two. They're both so different and both so engaging in different ways. There's a little more depth to Orc Island, but the story, it doesn't flow, from point A to point B. There's the journey of Siren, and when he meets Ugria, it's sort of a little twisting, and that makes sense. I mean, it is a 4-part series, so Dysart has a little more time to kind of play around and give us some, not necessarily subplots, but he can take his time and he can meander a little bit through the world and give us some context, as opposed to what Venditti is doing with only 2 issues of Escape from Wyoming. We're really focused on Dunn, who's that police officer that I mentioned, who was disgraced and framed for these crimes. Story's hyper focused on him and his goal to basically save the Earth, which he owes nothing to, but it's kind of out of that sense of duty that he always had. He was used to being part of law and order, on the side of the good guys. And I think being that he's been in prison on this supermax prison for so long, he's really just looking to get that feeling back, sense of self-worth. So they're very different. They're both really, really good, incredible art. Again, the production values on them are fantastic. Highly encourage you guys to pick them up. Remember, you can only get them at a Bad Idea destination store. If you don't know if you have a Bad Idea destination store close to you, go to badideacorp.com and you can find the list of stores there, or you can search online. There's plenty of stores, if you don't have one close to you, that do mail order, that will ship them to you weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis, or you can wait till the whole Bad Idea 2 Part 1 until all the books come out and have them all shipped to you that way. So there's plenty of places to get them. Again, what Bad Idea does is they're about trying to get people into comic shops, trying to get people into the shops on a regular basis, as opposed to putting them out digitally or in trades. It's all about selling the single issues. And a lot of why they don't do digital just has to do with piracy. Online piracy of comics is huge. And for a small company like them, it just doesn't make sense. So I know it's kind of a pain. I get it. I never thought I would be somebody who would read most of my comics digitally. But even when I sat down and read these, I'm used to being able to. I'm so old, my eyes are going. I'm used to being able to blow it up real big on the screen and check out the line work and the lettering. And yeah, I had to read in really good light and actually enjoy the art. And yeah, it was fun. It was a different experience. Again, it's not something I'd done since the last round of Bad Idea books had come out. So I enjoy these comics. I enjoy this company. I know that some people think that they're being kind of elitist or what have you. I don't see it that way. I see it as they love comics. They love both creating comics and the joy of storytelling, but also the collectability side. And you have to do a little bit of work. You have to do a little bit of work to get these comics in your hand. I feel like it's worth it. Some people feel like it's not, and that's fine for them. But I feel like it's worth it. And then all the extra stuff, like the first customer buttons and the fan cup award. They're trying to find Bad Idea Fan of the Year with this fan cup contest. It's just fun stuff like that that keeps their audience engaged. And yeah, they do have a loyal fan base, and I do encourage you to become part of the community if it sounds like something that you might be interested in. But it all starts with reading the books. So again, ask your local retailer if they're a Bad Idea destination store. If you haven't noticed the books there, they should be up by the front register. That's part of being a destination source, to have them in a very prominent place. But again, you can go online, Bad Idea Hello, or Bad Idea Corp. I'm not sure. Just Google Bad Idea Comics and you'll find it. So again, these 2 books are fantastic. They're coming out really quick, pretty much on a weekly basis for this month of November. 2 issues for Escape from Wyoming, 4 issues for Orc Island. So definitely recommend checking them out. And as always, appreciate you guys taking the time to check out the reviews and to support the Comic Source. So we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.